I think a lot of times we get caught up in the volume of what we're doing and not really realizing that I'm sitting down and I'm just talking to somebody. So if I can take my time and slow down and find out really why someone's on the phone, that conversation drastically changes.
Adam Blankenship, what's up, buddy?
How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing okay. Working, trying to do the best I can.
You're doing really well, I must say. Is this your first time on? I know it's your first time on this podcast. Have you ever been on a different podcast?
I have before.
So you're not like, I'm not a
podcast virgin.
I'm really sorry. I really wanted to be your first, I have to say.
I wanted to be your first.
I really did. I'm really disappointed, man.
It's okay.
That's all right.
It's all right.
I'll
I
still
can pretend born again.
Yeah, and I can be your best.
That's right. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
It's a close second to
as
being
you
your
warm up
first.
through life. Do you want first or best?
I'd rather be the best.
You want to be the best
because first can still be really bad.
Yeah.
If I recall, 800 years ago, I wasn't that great. You know what I mean?
Wasn't the best.
No, I was not impressive. So, well, let's do before we do your background and we introduce you to everyone. We want people to understand that you know how this goes. Jared totally dropped the ball.
Okay.
Like, I didn't even. I'm like, all right. So, do you have a did you know?
I do.
And let's hear it.
So for the first time in history, I looked this up yesterday, which I thought it was interesting because Halloween's coming up, but also blew my mind. First time in his history, Disney is allowing people to get complete replicas of a Darth Vader costume for Halloween.
Like the actual
costume. Guess how much it costs. Guess how much it costs.
How much?
$30 million. Sorry, poor people.
Are you kidding me?
$30 million.
Who would buy that?
Rich Halloween people. I was like, good. Sorry, poor people. Halloween's over.
That is the ultimate Halloween flex this year.
I was like, how is someone going to pay $30 million
Dude, if you have stupid money, like if you're some Saudi prince that's never done anything and is inheriting some oil baron, I mean, they don't report their net worth. So like, you talk about Bezos and all those guys, they got nothing on those guys. Right?
Get out of here.
I mean, come on. Like, trillions and trillions, right?
Yeah.
So like, what's 30 million on a
They're like, I'll be Vader.
Costume?
I'll be Vader. Doesn't matter.
If I'm that, whoever actually would play Darth Vader now, I'd want them to walk around with me and help me collect candy. If I'm paying that much, I want the actual actor.
We'll get James Earl Jones to voice you.
I want him to walk around, stand behind me, and say what I want him to say.
Like,
you know,
I'm paying for him for the day.
Yes. Yeah, I would like the Reese's Pieces. Yes. So my did you know, because I haven't been sleeping well lately. I just go through phases. I think everyone does. Did you know that 15% of the population sleepwalks? How scary is that? Have you ever? I've never done that. Have you ever?
I never have. I've had if you've had waking dreams where like you're kind of awake but not awake, but you think you can't move and you feel you're paralyzed. But I used to have
terrifying. I've never had that either.
It's terrible. I had a cousin who would sleepwalk, and whenever we were kids and we all had over at aunts or uncles' houses. Man, he'd get up and just walk outside and start walking down the street. So we'd be like, where's so-and-so? He's gone. That's terrifying.
That'd be awful. And then you wake up and you're halfway down the road. I mean, that'd be terrifying for both parties.
For everybody.
Did you see Step Brothers? Don't wake him up. He's like, I'm waking him up. They're like putting pillows in the oven and like
throwing food around the room.
Oh, dude, that was so awesome.
Great.
That's what I picture. If I sleepwalked, it would look like that.
It probably would. Yeah.
More than likely.
You would hope.
So let's tell the people your background, not your whole background. Not like I was born, we don't want to do that thing. Obviously, you played high-level athletics, but professionally, what is your background?
I really, coming back to athletic, I thought I was going to be a college coach forever, and I understand
And you were for a bit.
Oh, yeah. I love
volleyball, right? Indoor volleyball?
Yeah, coached women's volleyball. I understand. I enjoy the process of how did we get to things. I ended up on the West Coast working for Family Fitness and 24-Hour Fitness as early 20s, and it was literally, and I was having a conversation.
You're from Chicago originally.
Born and raised Chicago.
Got it.
Ended up Southern California, Central California. It was a crash course in how to run a business by yourself and figure it out or you're going to fail. So being able to walk into that and take over sales and then taking over Southern California and then taking over most of California and then traveling back and forth between a couple of different states, being in charge of pre-sales and sales, ended up with a company nobody remembers anymore, Fitness 19.
Oh, dude, I remember. That's a blast from the
You're
past.
in the rarity.
Right.
So ended up with them taking over pre-sales for them, and then got to a point where I wanted to get back more to interacting with people and finding out what motivates and makes them tick, but also really getting back to the mindset of how you're helping individuals and how you can be better at things.
Right.
Whether it's you as an individual or making other people better. Went back to the Midwest, ended up working for Orange Theory Fitness, taking over sales for locations in Illinois, and then got poached by the corporate office and took over Western United States franchise development. We were basically what you would call the fixers on the team. If there was an issue going on, we would come in and fix what's going on with the franchisee. Ended up as a franchisee. We got rid of our licenses.
Just in time.
Just in time.
I hear they're still off about 25%. Heard that yesterday.
I'm not going to say that that's probably true.
I heard it from a guy who does valuations.
I'm still in contact with a lot of the franchisees and a lot of the people who work at the corporate office. There's some things off there, definitely for sure. But wanted to get back also to, I think, me being in my 40s, I'm not old, but being able to say, hey, what's your purpose and how are you making things better and how are you helping individuals? And wanted to get back to actually helping people that I felt were good human beings getting to where they want to go in their business. So I consulted for a little bit, helped build some franchise sales processes for some other very popular, known now franchise concepts. But really, when I saw the job posted with Alloy, I jumped on it in a heartbeat. It wasn't even a second. Like within 2 seconds, I messaged you on Facebook.
Yep.
And it was a situation where I know I wanted to be in the right place with the right people at the right time with something that I thought could actually help individuals. And I think that's probably the most important thing to me, of being with the right people and helping individuals.
Yeah, it was interesting because at first you were remote and we had our for whatever reason, the idea is that everyone had to be local. Obviously, that limits your ability to attract the best talent.
Yeah.
And so we hired someone local and they didn't really pan out. And I was like, back to you again, because you were like our first choice. But it was I think you were in Tampa at the time.
San Diego.
And then you were in San Diego. Yeah. And it was like, all right, man. But it was like, all right, well, let's let them work remote, right? Yep. And then once we got started, you ended up moving here anyway, which is awesome. So, and by the way, like, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but everybody on the team in our leadership meetings hates your
hates your guts.
Literally, to a person on the team, you are like the biggest bright spot here. So props to you.
I'll take that.
And I always say, like, you literally have. I've never seen you have a bad day, and I'm not sure how you do it, but it's much appreciated.
Personal work is work.
Well, I mean, I agree, right? Yeah. And it's one thing to say, hey, leave it at the door, bring your A game, all the things that we've had in our core values in the past, but to actually do it every day and never miss, it's a real testament to you, man.
I think it's something I bring up to Matt all the time. I go on a day-to-day basis. I say to him all the time, just want to make sure I'm doing a good job. Just want to make sure I'm doing a good job.
Well, I'm here to tell you you are. And behind closed doors, you're a rock star, dude. Everybody loves you. So I'm not only glad that you're on the team, but there is a visceral positive effect by having you in our sphere. Like, to be in this office is a huge asset to us.
I love it. Thank you.
So thank you. But at this point in time, for you guys that haven't met Adam, if you're not with Alloy yet or you're coming on board, he is in charge of all pre-sales. And you heard his background. He's certainly qualified to do it. He's built a lot of really great processes for us. He also does a little bit of gun for hire work, and we have a department. He's got someone working with him now, and we'll probably have more in the future, where if you need us to either book your starting point sessions, which is get them to the gym if you're open, and or pre-sales, we can help you do that. Now, we can work alongside you and teach you to fish, and we can also give you some bandwidth and actually book some of those for you. So that's basically what you're doing at this point in time. Is that fair?
Yep.
In that, though, I think there's also a lot of opportunities for coaching around leadership and showing up, for your team, how you coach people. Yep. And the good news is we have full transparency with our software. Yep. So we got full optics on response times. We can listen to phone calls. You've written a protocol for phone call audits that we can summarize and send to investors. It's like super, super cool. So thought we'd have you on today. We'll keep it short and sweet, and we will just do essentially the three main aspects that you see from all your experience in being able to sell fitness, or I would say anything, but a service or fitness over the telephone.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me set the stage for folks listening. So, the cool thing about the fitness business is it's rare that you're opening a business. You have the opportunity to pre-sell it before you open. So you can actually open realizing revenue. Like if you're opening a restaurant, you can't pre-sell food.
Challenging.
You can sell, gift cards or whatever. It's just different. So here it's a recurring income, which is really nice. And you have the opportunity to sell it. So we have had franchisees open. We force them to open with 75, which in most cases puts them at either break even or
above.
Yeah, right? And in some cases, we've had people open completely full, and you can figure out what that would look like. And I know we can't make claims, but it's a good scenario. But it's not easy because you're selling something in a market where the thing doesn't exist yet. It's not even open yet.
Selling air.
You're selling air. So you're selling
an idea.
You're selling a future promise. You're actually selling the potential of a goal. It's not even guaranteed,
not even an actual goal.
Because the other person has the burden to do the thing, right? The work, if you will, on the customer side. But I think it's really important to map out. So let's do the top 3 things that you think are most important, right? And so I'll call them out and then you explain them. How about that?
Sure.
So number 1, you've got setting expectations for calls. What do you mean?
So I tend to notice, even just in our network or across the board, when people, especially doing phone sales, a lot of times when you get somebody on the phone, they want information. So they're there to ask for information. And I think a lot of times people who are doing phone sales over the phone get caught in giving information instead of actually saying what the process of what we're doing here today is. So
you're talking about from the start of the call, you're like, here's the way this call is going to work. It's funny you say that. I do that even just intuitively, like on
here's what we're going to do
on the CEO call, because they're probably there to get their questions answered. I'm like, here's the way it works. I'm going to spend about half the time asking you questions. We'll flip the script. You'll have a chance to get your questions answered. Is that fair? They say yes. I'm like, great. Now we know what we're doing, right? Very similar.
I had when I first started 24-hour fitness, family fitness, I had someone teach me, when you're asking for a certain price point, if you validate time, then things become easier. So if I ask you for permission to go through things and I set the expectation of what it's going to be and you go, yes,
right.
Generally I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to do in this process.
Right.
So I think a lot of times when people get on the phone with us, when they're going through sales process, especially for health clubs, it comes down to what's the price? Where are you at? When are you opening? And really what you're trying to do is to say, hey, the whole guidance of this phone call is for me to figure out what's going on with you.
Especially in personal training. I mean,
come on. If I don't know,
right?
If I don't know, how can I tell you a price for one? My job is to set the expectation for this phone call to say, hey, listen, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to answer any questions you have. It's my job to figure out really what you're looking to do. And at the end of that phone call, if it makes sense for both of us, we're going to reserve you for a membership. Every single time I'm on the phone with somebody in any model I've ever been in, they go, okay. So now I have the permission to go through the things I need to do.
And ask them the questions, right? So they're not steering the process.
It becomes on them now, not me. It's not bing, bing, bing question.
Well, it goes back to the old adage, like whoever's talking is losing, which is
sure.
If you're asking
and I've learned
questions,
that from you.
But if whoever's asking questions and getting the other person to talk, you're winning.
Correct. And there's a couple things I've used learning from you, and that, hey, whoever's talking the most is probably losing. And I was like, I'll be on calls. I'm doing it for 20 years. I'll say to my mind, shut up right now. Just shut up and listen. Or I'll say to my mind, I'll put them in a position where I'm like, well, what happens if you don't? Which is my favorite thing now. Well, what happens if you don't? But I think a lot of times, especially in the health club setting, the immediate what people want to go to is, what are your hours? How much do you cost? What do you do? And I want to go, hey, I need to figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah, before I can put a price on it, I need to know.
No idea.
Exactly.
I have no idea what's going on with you. And the whole purpose of this phone call is for me to figure out what is going on with you, because you're a human being. So you're a human being. I'm a human being. This is what the purpose of this phone call is. Let's find out what's going on with you. If it makes sense for you, man, I'll get you reserved. If it doesn't, I'll be honest with you. And I can guarantee you 99% of the time, it makes sense for what they're supposed to be doing, because you find out what's actually going on with them and you set the expectation for the purpose of the phone call.
There's so much there to unpack that I love.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff we could go into. It'd probably turn into a 2-hour phone call, but like, I love it because obviously whoever's talking is losing, but you're also, you're peeling the onion, which I think is going to be point 2. So I want to step on your toes getting into that. but you're setting an expectation for how the call. And I think, like, to your point, if you just say, I need to know more about you before I can put a price to the thing, you're also sitting in, you're sort of setting the expectation that you're an expert. I need to know what you need
For sure.
from this, because you have a goal or a reason that you called.
Yep.
And then once I have your goals, so to speak, I will make a prescription and then I can put a price to it.
For sure. And that, in a logical sense of things, like, that makes sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're probably like, oh, yeah. Okay.
That makes sense.
Like, how would I know how much it's going to cost? Because if it's personal training,
Correct.
it should be about me.
Correct.
And that means the price should also be about me.
And, I think, we've had this conversation before where I think a lot of people are built on what happens inside big box and what happens in class, where it's like, what's your price point? What's your price point?
And they think they already know what's going to happen.
Correct. And being able to explain to them, hey, there's a process to this. I really need to know what's going on with you because, one, I care, but two, I'm taking control of this conversation. And three, if it makes sense for you, I'm going to figure it out because I've set this expectation and now I have permission to go through what I want to go through. And at the end of it, I'm selling value, not price point. So how are we going to figure out what's going on with you and get you going?
Well, and also, like, we talk a lot about, like, different types of relationships, and we only really speak about two. It's like you have a relational type of relationship where it's interpersonal, and you have transactional relationship. So if you let the customer steer the process in the sense that it's just give me the goods, you are by default telling them that it's a transactional relationship, and it's not. Like you said, you can't build value, you can't talk about them, and you can't dig into, which I guess we could transition to this. Like, bullet point number 2 is to find their why.
Yeah, and I think this is something that is unbelievably important to you. Like, why are the people here and why are what we doing? What's the process of us being here? And I think that's probably my most favorite part of having conversations with people on the phone or just in general in the fitness industry is because you may have gone through it 100 times today. It's the first time you're talking to them. So I think a lot of times we get caught up in the volume of what we're doing and not really realizing that I'm sitting down and I'm just talking to somebody. So if I can take my time and slow down and find out really why someone's on the phone, that conversation drastically changes. When it comes down to, setting expectation and not letting it become transactional, when it becomes more value-based and you're having the why, I can guarantee you 99% of the people who get on the phone, I want to lose weight. I want to get stronger. I can't, I'm not eating right. I have pain. This is going on.
I'm not motivated, whatever those things are.
I can use a perfect example of a lady who joined yesterday. She got out of COVID and the guy who was her personal trainer passed away.
Oh, geez.
And she hasn't been able to find a place where she feels like she's welcome. And the conversation started off with her saying, I want to lose weight. And I honestly said to her, nobody wakes up one day and just says, I want to lose weight. What's going on? And you can almost hear it in their voice sometimes. So the conversation starting off of the same 3 things we always hear, I want to lose weight, I want to get stronger, I've lost motivation. Great, you've lost motivation. Why are you really on the phone today? Because you had the motivation, something went away, what's going on? And the one thing one of the amazing things I love about this model, and I love working inside this office, is we are all very hard workers, but generally we want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with you? So whatever sales process you've been in, instead of letting it come transactional and people getting on surface area of things, how you make things sticky is, hey, great. And you'll hear me say it all day, even to us. You doing okay today? What's going on? How you doing? What's wrong?
Yep.
Because being able to take the time to say, hey, I know you're on this phone right now because you want to lose weight and you saw something on Facebook. Nobody wakes up one day and just says, I want to work out 3 days a week. Like, what's really going on?
Right.
In a lot post-COVID, people are looking to make human interaction for sure. A lot of times people post-COVID, they've lost track of what's going on with themselves physically, but it's more mentally. They've lost what's going on with themselves mentally, and they don't know how to get out of it. And a lot of times people really need a support network because maybe they've been in situations where they've had support and they've lost that. But if you're taking phone calls and you're on sales phone calls or you're on phone calls with us, and your main questions are, do you look to lose weight? Are you trying to get stronger? Do you need help with your nutrition? man, that's just the surface.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we always refer to that now in our scripted sales process live, like what we call the starting point session. We call it peeling the onion.
yeah, for sure.
But if you're pre-selling something that doesn't exist yet, then I'll be honest, even if you're just booking a session for a club that's already open and they need our bandwidth as a sales team, you're still peeling the onion.
For sure. Even more. Yeah, a lot
Even more
sometimes,
so.
especially because you're creating it over the phone.
And you know this day and age, like if somebody shows up, it's got personal training, the name is on the door. They know what they're getting into. They don't come in unless they're ready.
Yes, for
So
sure.
typically the hardest thing is getting them from putting their hand up that I'm interested to go to. Now, our close rate's 80+%, right? The good clubs are over 90%. So it's not that difficult to sell somebody who made the choice to walk through that door. It's a bit of a skill set, but what you're doing is essentially taking the exact thing that we've known for 32 years that works on the front end, which is peel the onion, but now you're doing it before you meet them in person, right? And how much more important is that, and how much more likely are they to stick? And I've also heard psychology around if you ask enough why questions and you really dig deep and it becomes about something else, I'm not saying it's exhausting, but there is an emotional investment for the person telling you that. Yeah. They are so much less likely to go somewhere else. So they're not just price shopping, how much it costs? What do you guys do? How much it costs? What do you guys do? You're like, wait. You set the tone for the call. This is the purpose. They agree. You dig down to the why, and it's a completely different it's a completely different experience for them, and they're much less likely to repeat that process over and over and over again. So I don't know, man. It's just the best. And I mean, like, let's just zoom out. Like you said, we're humans servicing humans. I love the guy who built
everyday people.
Well, that's the thing. And the guy that built the whole customer service framework for Ritz-Carlton, he said he would talk to the service staff. Now, these are maids and people that are just really in the service space. And he would come in and say in their training, we are ladies and gentlemen servicing ladies and gentlemen. And basically what he's saying is exactly what you said. We are humans working with humans. This is not a transactional. This isn't a deal. You're not selling client number 75, right? This is Sally, who a trainer passed away during COVID, and she's completely lost touch with her physicality and is completely lost and craves some kind of human-to-human interaction, right?
And a
totally different story.
And things become transactional if you don't treat it that way.
100%.
Oh, I agree.
And then you're shooting yourself in the foot, because I can guarantee you I've worked with so many brands all over the world. If it's transactional, your churn rate and everything else will, on the back end, will be abysmal, right?
Correct.
If, in fact, you don't make that connection in the front end.
For sure. And, we always talk about having a client be sticky into what we are. And I think that comes with community. And I think that comes with...
Well, they have to know why they're there.
Understanding who the person is and that we're invested into you and we're actually here to make you better, whatever you choose that to be. And I think we would be doing them a disservice, and this is my opinion on things, we would be doing them a disservice if we're not actually trying to figure out why they're there.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to let you guys know, if you're with Alloy or you're coming on board, like there is then communication from, say, Adam and his team to the director who's working in the club.
Yeah.
Any of that peeling of the onion, needs to be communicated to the club, because like how off-putting would it be if the person shows up and they act like they've never met you before?
Correct.
It's like they should know that you're trainer passed and that you have all these things. If they're armed with that knowledge, they start with that base level of knowledge. And then we are truly a group of ladies and gentlemen helping a group of ladies and gentlemen. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think that one of the most powerful things is being able to translate that information to a director in notes and be like, hey, this is what's going on with that individual.
And we have all the mechanisms to do that, right?
Correct.
Love it.
It makes it so easy.
Now, the last one, and this is funny, I laugh when I see it. So it's like, set the expectations for the call, dig down, peel the onion, find the why. Lastly, ask them to join or find a solution to their problem. So what do you mean? I mean, it sounds obvious, but what do you mean?
Obvious. Hey, are you interested in that? Let's have you sign up. I think a lot of times it's been interesting for me. I think you can give your perspective on this as well, too. If I do a really good job of finding the why, I don't have to ask them to join. They just say, yes, I'm joining. I don't have to ask them if they're interested. I don't have to ask them, is that something you'd want to do? They just go, yep, sign me up. I think a lot of times if you are in a situation, especially in a franchise setting where maybe you haven't done sales to the extent of maybe someone like us have done before, a big fear is asking someone to join.
Right.
Please join.
Yeah, because you're scared to hear no.
Correct. Right? Because you also as an individual are equating price and value as two different things.
Yes.
So being able to
Well, and it's, we often call that like don't sell from your own wallet.
sure.
Like if you wouldn't pay $400 for training,
correct.
You're already self-motivated. You may work out in your garage basement or whatever. Garage or basement. I get it. But that's not 99% of the world.
Sure.
They will easily pay that to do a thing that they know they need to do, especially if it's somewhat pleasurable and there's a community built around it.
Correct. I think being able to do a proper peel the onion and get the needs assessment of what's going on with somebody and transitioning to asking them to join is as simple as, hey, does that make sense to you? Great, I'm going to sign you up. I don't ever ask somebody to join. I go, I'm signing you up.
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay, great. Now, the problem I tend to notice with people who are younger salespeople or people who haven't been in that position is when they get brought up the question after that. If I say to you, great, let's get you signed up. And then, or hey, do you have any questions about that? And then those questions come up, you're not sure how to respond. So old school term, you'll hear overcome objections, overcome objections, overcome objections. I noticed when I started to take that phrase away with my staffs, taking away overcome objections and saying, let's provide some solutions today. So we practice providing solutions. So what's the 3 common questions we tend to get? I don't know if I can afford that. I don't know if it can fit into my schedule. I got to go talk to somebody else.
All right. Time, not decision maker, price.
Correct. So if I can provide a solution to that before they get to that, or when I get to that, it becomes much easier. But also, if I treat it as an objection,
right? Just the word. It's like, oh my gosh,
if they were objecting, they wouldn't be there.
Overcoming something. You're not like you should think of yourself as sort of a tour guide, right?
Correct.
And you're taking them along, and they're like, hey, what's this over here? You're like, oh, that's the it was built in 1732.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing.
Correct.
You're informing people.
Correct.
And I've heard people, and again, I'm air quoting for those of you guys not watching, overcome objections by saying things like, like, well, I want to think about it, right? Yep. It's like, well, I'm the only source of information that you would have. So I'm right here. Yep. What is it that you need to know? Because you're telling me you lack enough information to make a decision. Yep. And which is probably not true, right? And when you say that, it's kind of like, well, it's actually what I mean, whatever, right? Yeah. So certainly there's a million tricks to the trade. We're going to teach you those if you come on as an Alloy franchisee, or we'll come alongside you and show you how to do it. Yep. But do you feel like if you do you already mentioned, like if you peel the onion, if you do the why really well, do you get a lot less of that?
Oh, for sure. And think about it, if we just follow a standard sales practice, or sales process, whether it's in person or over the phone, I can do an okay meet and greet. Like, I'm all right. If I do a really bad needs assessment or a really bad peel the onion, it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
So if I do a really good peel the onion, really good needs assessment, and I've provided what I think should make sense for them and it's a value, like I said, I would say 99% of the people I talk to over the phone, and I can also say this, if I book an appointment with someone, they're joining. So they are joining. Maybe a week I'll miss 1 or 2. But I would say...
You're meaning like they book a time to come into a starting point and or whatever.
Or over the phone.
Yeah. Right. And then they don't show up. That would be like, But if you do a good job in the other parts you talked about, 99% of the time you're getting them.
They're joining.
Cool.
In being able to say... hey, I've done a good peel the onion. If you do a bad peel the onion, it's really hard to recover.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to recover. I'm going to try and give you value now when I haven't had an idea of figuring out what you want. Like, it's really hard. But it gets down to simple. If I'm doing a really good setting the stage and peeling the onion, when it comes to the join part of it, it's, hey, I'm going to get you signed up. Because you've made it, to your point, less transactional, and you've made it more about value and why, you've realized that you can help the person, and they realize you can be helped. So it ends up making it a lot easier. Yeah.
Cool. So you got to ask at the end. And like you said, you're asking, but you're basically inferring
they're joining,
that they're going to join because they have a problem. You have presented a solution, morning or evening.
Yeah.
Like that kind of idea, right? Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. So, and I think, to your point, when people get to that critical moment, if they haven't done the other things well, it will be a little bit scary to be like, so do you want to join? It's like, you should be under the assumption that you are the absolute and convicted that you are the absolute expert, that you would be remiss not to bring them in because you are convicted that you have the solution that they need. You're so excited to have them on the phone. You've got someone on the phone whose life you can change. You have the perfect solution for them. It's not an issue of like, should you do this? It's like, when are you coming in?
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
And here's the question also, being a salesperson, if you don't think you have the perfect solution, something's wrong. So like,
you're not working for the right company because you don't believe in the thing, right?
Correct.
And there's a ton of research around, if you really believe in the thing, like really, you honestly believe that the solution that you have is the best solution, that shows up in your level of conviction, in your tonality, and your excitement level, how deep you'll dig on the why. It all manifests itself there. And so that will, either make or break your whole sales process, right? So you have to really believe in the thing.
For sure. And I think it comes down to like something you've said before, like how many lives can we change? Like we're changing lives, so you should invest yourself into that.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, that's what we're here to do. I mean, we're changing the lives of our investors. They're becoming entrepreneurs. They're going to go into their local community and change at least 130, 150 lives in their local community. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's the brand, right? That's what Alloy stands for, literally, quite in a definition. That's what the logo says. That's what Stronger Together means. Like, it's all that. But it needs to manifest itself in the sales process. And I think if you guys really listen, I mean, Adam, he takes away the scary aspects of it. It's not transactional. He is a human being speaking to another human being that he is very passionate about helping, and he has the perfect vehicle to do so. You just have to explain to them why you're the perfect solution, and you got to find out who they are and what they're really, why they're really there first.
They're looking for help. They're looking for a solution. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, this is funny. It's kind of like weight loss. It's simple but not easy. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. It's even like a lot of complicated. Like if they say this, you want to pause and do. It's not tactical. Yeah. It's just more about giving a shit. I hate to say
who's
it, but
who's
do you
the
agree?
person I'm talking to?
Yeah.
I completely. I think it's, and you've had this conversation before, and where it's. We're so transactional in what we do day to day now that things have gotten away from just realizing that here's a human being across from you, and how can you help them?
Yeah, real person with real human things going on in their life, right? So anyway, appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Blankenship.
Thank you.
Peace.